Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. We are from Group 2. We will going to present the topic about pigeons and crows. But before, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Enno Wikku Eppa and my friend.
Fransiska Rafila.
Okay, now we will start the presentation. The first explanation by Fransiska Rafila.
The first, a Pidgin and Creoles. Among the many languages of the world are a few often assigned to a somewhat marginal position, like lingua franca, Pidgin and Creoles. Pidgin and Creoles are a new language that develop when speakers of different languages come into contact with each other and have a need to communicate.
Okay, next, let's see the lingua francas. Lingua francas is people who speak different language who are forced into contact with each other must find some way of communicating. In other words, lingua franca is the language used to communicate between people who come from different language background. According to UNESCO, define a lingua franca as a language which is used habitually by people whose mother tongue are different in order to facilitate communication between them. And according to Samarin, 1968, page 661, define for lingua franca. They are a trend language, for example, Hausa in West Africa or Swahili in East Africa. And the next, a contact language, for example, Greek Koine in the Asian world. And next, the international language, for example, English throughout much of our contemporary world. And the last, an auxiliary language, for example, Esperanto or Basic English.
Still another kind of lingua franca is a mixed language. According to Becker, describes one such language, Misef, a mixture of Cree and French spoken mainly in Canada by well under 1,000 people of Métis ancestry. According to Winford, adds that the Misef are an example of newly emerged social groups who want a language of their own. In other parts of the world, Arabic, Mandarin, Hindi, and Swahili have served or do serve as lingua franca. Of this, Arabic was a lingua franca associated with the spread of Islam. Today, English is used in very many places and for very many purposes as a lingua franca.
And next, the characteristic of lingua franca, a language that has developed widely and become a medium between all groups. For example, the first example is English, which is widely used by the international community as the means of communication for business, politics, science, and the aviation. And the second example is Indonesian. It can be lingua franca such as when Japanese and Sumbanese meet, they can still communicate in Indonesian. And many other lingua franca are centered in certain areas such as Arabia, China, Russia, and Spain, and etc.
The next is about pidgins. Pidgins is described as a language created by the arena of communication factor between speakers of different languages. In this case, the speaker creates a certain language system by utilizing the existing language used by two or more communicators in a simple form. According to Holmes, 1988 defines a pidgin as A reduced language that results from extended contact between groups of people with no language in common. It evolves when they need some means of verbal communication, perhaps for trade, but no groups learn the native language of any other group for social reasons that may include lack of trust or close contact.
Next, according to Winom, 1971, the process of Pidginization probably required a situation that involves at least three languages, one of which is clearly dominant over the others. Two languages, which is become inferior, appear to play a critical role in pidgin development. They must not only speak to those who are in the dominant position, but they must also speak to each other. In order to do this, they had to use and simplify the dominating language in some way. This simplification has universal characteristic or not. For example, Pidgin Chinese English was used mainly by speakers of different Chinese language, and Tok Pisin is today used as a unified language among speakers of many different languages in Papua New Guinea.
The next is about Creoles. Creoles is the language of the Pidgin language, having native speaker as the native language as the new official language and undergoing change in form and function. A Creole language is a Pidgin that has become the first language of a new generation of speakers. According to Holmes, 1992, say that a Creole is a pidgin which has expanded in structure and vocabulary to express the range of meanings and serve the range of function record of a first language. According to Winford, 2003, state that Creoles constitute a motley assortment of contact vernaculars with different histories and lines of development. Though of course they still have much in common and there are no structural characteristics that all Creoles share and structural criteria that can distinguish Creoles from other types of language.
Next, the distribution and the characteristic of Pidgin and Creoles. Distribution Pidgin and Creoles language are widespread, although not exclusively worldwide, usually in places with direct or easy access to the ocean. Most Pidgin language can be found in the Caribbean and around the north and east coast of South America, around the coast of Africa, particularly the west coast, and across the India and Pacific Ocean. The characteristics of pigeons: the first, no native speakers; the second, compromise between two or more languages; next, sociality limit; and the last, limit vocabulary. And the characteristic of Creoles: the first, there is a native speakers; next, used as the mother tongue by children; next, different in function and structure; and the last usually start as a pidgin.
The next is about the origins. There are various theories about the origin of pidgin which have been proposed in the last 100 years or so. The first is foreigner talk or baby talk theory. According to this theory, this simplified form then served to provide pigeons with their basic structure and vocabularies. The next is paleogenesis. Theory is that pigeons and creoles have a variety of origins. Any similarities among them arise from the shared circumstances of their origins. The next is monogenetic. Theory is that the similarities among pigeon and creoles might be attributable to a common origin in the language of sailors in some kind of nautical jargon. The next is relaxification theory is an attempt to offer such an explanation. According to this theory, all the present European language-based pidgin and creoles derive from a single source, a lingua franca called saber user in a Mediterranean in the Middle Ages.
Next, from Pidgin to Creole. The change from Pidgin to Creole influenced a huge expansion in the research available for linguistic structure, particularly in vocabulary, grammar, and style, which must face the daily demands made by native speakers. Pidgin is naturally formed as an auxiliary language, which is learned from the side of the vernacular language which develops more in its structure and usage. Creole, on the other hand, has the features of true vernacular language. Some argue that the word pidgin comes from the English business spoken by Pidgin and Pidgin English in China. Business English equals Pidgin's English. Some examples of pidgin are pidgin English in Melanesia, like New Guinea, Bismarck Island, Solomon Island. The best known is the one in Melanesia, Melanesia Pidgin English, called Tok Pisin. This language is spoken in Papua New Guinea. Like most other pidgins, much of its vocabulary and language structure is based on one language from two or more languages.
The next is about differences between Pidgin and Creole. The first is Pidgin. Pidgin involves simplification of language, for example, reducing morphology or word structure and syntax or grammatical structure. Tolerance for phonological variation or pronunciation, reducing the function of the Pidgin language, borrowing vocabulary from the local mother tongue. The next is about Creole. While Creole involves the whitening of morphology and syntax, the arrangement of phonology, the deliberate addition of the function of the language, and development of a rational and file system to add vocabulary.
Okay, that's all the presentation from Group 2. Thank you and stay safe, stay healthy, and have a nice day. Goodbye.